Hey, welcome to you guys out here in YouTube land. I think we're about part 3 maybe on doing upgrades to the 2019 Yamaha YZ250X that I'm going to be setting up to ride on the moto track there. There's the bike a little bit better. So in this episode, we're going to be taking off the front forks and changing out the fork springs. So I'm going to move the camera over into a fixed position and start taking it apart. All right, so first thing we're going to do is loosen up the top triple clamp so that I can get the top cap of the fork off. Well, not off, but to break it loose. These are 10s. Just popping them loose on both sides. I didn't have genuine KYB, KYB fork cap tool, so I'm going to have to use my crescent wrench or adjustable wrench to break this loose. I don't really recommend this in general. I like to tell people to have the right tool for the job, but unfortunately I didn't have that. So let's get this on here and see if I can break them loose. Yeah, there we go. All right, there's one side. You want to break them loose while they're still in the clamps because they're so hard to turn if they're loose. They'll just come loose on you. Alright, so the other thing we want to do is disconnect the brake cable holder, the little holder that holds that on. Those are 8s. So I'll take these all the way off. I like to break them and loose with the gun and then take them by hand. Just set those aside. Right, the next thing is the actual lug nut on for the wheel. Might have to go down a little bit on that one so you can see it. Yeah, the lug nut on the wheel, 22 millimeter. Take that off. And then break the little 10 millimeters for the clamps themselves. So that you can get that out of there and get the wheel off. Right? And something to drive it through. If you have any spacers, different wheels have different things. If you have spacers, be careful to watch for the spacers. And pull that off. Set it aside. Put that down there. All right, and then now I'm going to take I'll turn it more to the camera. Take the brake bolts off. Also the 10 millimeters. hang. I've got that kind of propped up in between the pipe and the frame. All right, so coming back up here. Oops, let me get this back into focus. So now I'm going to take off the remaining triple clamp bolts and remove the tubes out. Okay, and just go lightly. You don't want to scratch your tubes, so go lightly with it. There you go. I've leaned it against my bench now. On the other side now. All right, so that got the tubes out of the tubes are now out of the triple clamps. And now I'm going to unscrew the caps enough so that they'll separate. And I'm also going to take off the fork covers, fork protectors. I'm going to suggest anybody, when you're working with suspension, you want it as clean as you can possibly get it. So I'm going to go here and clean them off a little bit, and then I'm going to come back with contact cleaner. Clean the tubes. Say it again. I don't know how many times I got to do this, but yeah, make sure you got it nice and clean. You always want your suspension stuff to be nice and clean. Dust seal, tubes. Lugs, anything you can clean. Now, back to the caps. Get them. Oh, wow. I had loosened them, but you know, they're going to be on there. These have never been broken loose before. So, all right, now that I broke it loose, I'm going to back the, should have done this already, back the compression clicker all the way out. Okay, push this back tight, and same with the rebound. Forgot to back them out all the way. You need to do that. Back all your clickers all the way out. You can damage them when you're putting it back together if you don't do that. Hasn't been broken loose yet, so let's do that. I'll get it going. Okay, so I got them to where they're hand tight and they can separate. Yep. And just a couple threads back on to hold it into place while I get a bucket to drain them into. Yeah, there we go. Okay. All right. As you can see there, I've got a container. Want to drain them into that container. I think this oil is very low hour, so I want to see if I can use it. I have brand new fluid. I would recommend brand new fluid unless you're in a scenario like this where it really hasn't been ridden that much. So we'll see what it looks like, and I'll make a decision from there. But so you separate the cap just enough that you can get it to drain, and then grab it and drain it out. And that's worse than what I thought it was going to be. Yeah, that's not very clean. So we're going to have to go with new fluid. Oops. And you can let this sit for a, you should let this sit. It should take a long time to drain. But I'm just doing a quick dump right here. It's kind of called a dump and go. Some people call it. I'll lean it into a different drain. Like I said, I was gonna try to keep this, but that won't work. So make sure you hold the silver part in a little bit of gap. You can drain this. Okay, so far I've already done one of these, one of the fork legs. So I'm going to go to the other one. I've grabbed the axle and put it through to actually help me to hold so that it doesn't turn. And I'm using the 17 millimeter, and I'm going to take off the rebound adjusting knob the rest of the way out. Separate it from the lug. You'll see it kind of, it gets loose. You'll be able to tell. So I've done that. So now I'm going to come over here. I've pushed the outer fork tube back, but leave it loose so that you can get this separated. And I use this. I have the axle through the lug. I have a Rocky Mountain H tool, which is to hold the rod, the dampening rod. And I'm going to push down on it carefully. Get under the, I hope you can see that. Get under and hold it like that so that you can take off the rebound. And then a 15 on this lower part, right below the threads, and then a 17 again, and you're going to separate the two. It should be a little bit hard if you haven't had these off before, because they use red Loctite to seal it. So there's your rebound cap, and then internally there's a rod. So you take that rod out, take off your 15, push back down now against the spring, and take out the H tool that holds that rod. You can also use another wrench, another, like, I think a 17 or a 15. You can use that to, if you don't have a fork cap tool or a H tool. And then you're just going to take off. You can bring up the outer to the inner tube, fork tube, and take those off. Set them aside. It'll be off camera probably for you. And then remove the spring. Set them aside. You don't want to confuse them with your new ones. And I'm going to set this over here to drain a little bit more. And there you go. Just waiting on new springs to come. Okay, so welcome back to the video. I had to take a break because the springs didn't come in on the day that they were supposed to come in. I had everything all broken down, but waiting for the springs, and the springs didn't come in. So as you can see, I've changed clothes, and it's a new day. So we're going to get back into this video. We're going to install the springs, and one of the first things is from from Race Tech on their website. I got the oil level recommended, and it's also calling for 4 millimeters of preload spacer. I'm going to put that closer so maybe you can see it. So the preload spacers, a lot of times when you get Race Tech springs, they're a little bit shorter. So they'll send you a packet of washers or a nylon spacer. I measured these out with my micrometer to 4 millimeters that they need. It turned out to be 3 of these silver little spacers. So I'm going to already have them on one, but so I'm going to drop it down before you put the spring. I have it so where these washers are touching against the plastic. Okay, so I'm going to lay this back down. Okay, I got the correct spring. Don't mix your springs up. I've done that before. So then you've got the inner cartridge. I'm going to install the spring on it with those spacers that it required. Then I'm going to do the outer tube. Grab the outer tube. Install it over. Her up a little bit. Give it a couple screws on the cap. You don't have to go tight, but just enough to keep it from moving. Grab your H tool again so that you can capture the rod when you push down on it. You want to capture that rod. I always keep the axle around to use as leverage to push down on the fork tubes for this scenario. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to push down and then capture that dampening rod with the H tool. Just like that. So that it holds it in place. To be able to make your adjustments. Okay, so after you get that rod back in there, make sure it's all the way down. Get your rebound cap and just lightly seat it by hand. You don't want to squish that little bit of rod that's sticking out. You can do damage. So you just lightly seat it by hand. Then get your 15. And you want to bring that bottom cap up to the rebound cap. So you're bringing the bottom up to pinch it up against this so it doesn't move. I've got my 17 over here that I'm holding it. So I want to bring the bottom up to meet the top. And that's why, I don't know if I said it earlier when I was disassembling, but you always want to bottom that lower collar when you disassemble, so that you have the room to bring it up, to tighten it against up against the rebound dampening cap. And then you just, you don't have to go crazy. Just hand tighten them to each other so they don't move or come undone. And put your axle back in. Push down and remove the H tool. Not a big deal. And line it up so that you don't damage the threads as you come back up slowly for your rebound cap. And then you can just tighten it. Make sure you're not, yeah, see? Sometimes it gets a little cockeyed. Don't over tighten it. I'll check the torque value and get back to you on it. I'll hit it again with my torque wrench later before I install. But that's the process for putting on the spring. And now I'm going to turn it upside down, or correct way. Unscrew the cap and put the oil in the outer cartridge. Now I've already measured this. Race Tech recommends 350 milliliters, or 350 cc's, sorry. So I'm going to reinstall that in here. Just go slow. Just run it right against the cartridge, the inner cartridge. That's how I do it. So it doesn't spill. I just go slow. 350 cc's in there. Alright, bring the tube up to the cap. And tighten it as much as you can by hand. That'll be good enough. And then when you put them back into your triple clamps, you can really torque them down good. Well, you don't want to go too much, but you can't move right now. And then I like to plunge them, work them back and forth. They're much stiffer now. Put my body weight against it. Okay, so got the tube in here, just enough so I can adjust, tighten the cap. And I'm going to tighten one of the bolts on the bottom so it will hold it from spinning. Then we're just going to tighten the cap, which I couldn't do, just on the bench there. Doesn't have to be too much. You want these to be just, I don't know, snug, I get a little bit more than snug. There you go, just so they won't blow out any oil or any air. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is actually back that bolt back out and make sure that I've got it into position where I want it. These I'm just going to run flush with the top of the trip clamps. And then I'm just going to run these in loose. You got to torque them again. So right now just loose. Always be careful with an impact wrench, because you can really strip stuff easy with those. All right, and same scenario for the other side. Let's get some grease on there. Just got brand new grease brushes. Maxima grease, the best, waterproof grease. swear by it. And if you can get one of these brushes, you can get into a lot of places, not make such a mess. So I like to get the lugs, get them nice and lubed up. And I like to put a little bit on the big side, and you can kind of see the wear mark on the smaller side too. I'll just put a little bit on there all the way around, kind of help install. The wheel. Always make sure that you have your wheel spacers in there too. And you shouldn't have to do too much. Don't ever get caught up beating these things. That means you're not lined up correctly if you're beating them a lot. They should go pretty easy. Yeah, see? There we go. Alright. I'll put our brake back. Probably have to spread your brake pads again with a screwdriver. I'm having to do that this time. So you can get some spacing in there so you can get it back on the rotor. So just spread them out a little bit. And line them up so that you can put your bolts on. Get them started. Yep. And then run them in. Okay. Then run a 17, your end cap nut on the other side here. Run that. I like to run it till it bottoms out. Don't over tighten it. Then tighten one of the nuts on the lug on this side, on the brake side. Tighten it so that the whole axle can't spin. Then come up here, move your bike back on your stand so your front wheel can spin. I'm hitting the pipe as far as I can go. Alright. Get your brake back to touching. get the fluid back in it, so it's nice and tight. There you go. All right, so what I like to do to center the wheel, make sure your brake cable's out of the way, you're not rubbing up against your tire. I like to spin the wheel and slam on the brake. Spin the wheel, slam on the brake. That's centering, when you leave these loose, that's centering your fork tubes so that you don't have bind. You should see it move a little bit. Yep. All right, nice and good. And then you can run those lug bolts, at least just down. Like I said, don't tighten these with an impact wrench. All right. Install your fork guards and attach your brake to your fork guard, and that's it. That's the process. And don't forget to go back and torque everything. As a matter of fact, I'll get my torque out just to show you guys. I got this one set up, you probably can't see it, 15. That's for the lower. The bolts that go on the lug. You have to go back through them a couple times, left and right. Or in and out, however you want to call it. Because once you tighten one side, the other one becomes loose. Yep, go through them again. Again. Alright, there you go. Same with these. I'm not sure if they're 15 foot-pounds. It might not be that much, but we'll run them to that right now. All right. Catch you next time.